Griff, what pleased you most?
Obviously the result. You've got to side top the league. We spoke in the week that over the last 2 or 3 years they have had a little bit of a stamp on us in terms of the way the games have panned out. But we had confidence that we certainly train with purpose and we know exactly what we want to achieve. And even though it's slightly erratic at times, there's areas we certainly pressure at Glasgow, stop them hitting their strides in terms of some of their phase play, even though they're always dangerous. We had a couple of moments where we did bring them into the game, but by and large, we took stuff away from them and then took our chances.
Guess you're, got a home draw looking good for it.
I think we've got to respect our opponents next week. I think that's probably the next thing in our mind, knowing that there's a Connacht side who more than likely got one of the biggest games in their history next week, as well as some stalwarts leaving the club. So it's going to be a hell of an atmosphere at the sports ground, and we've just got to persist with the way we're training, the confidence we're developing in the group to actually play good rugby ball in hand, but have the balance of smartness around what we do as well.
Have you ever known a season where the top four has been as tight as this, and at this point nobody knows who's at home and nobody knows who they're going to play?
No, not recent history. And certainly in terms of the playoffs, I think you've tended to have, in terms of recent history, the sides like Leinster, Ulster, have run away with it with some consistency. To be fair to them, but I think the margins have narrowed across the league, and although a side like Leinster have dropped off, there's sort of been results reverberated around the league that have obviously caused a little bit of tightness at the top there. I think point of difference for us is that we've probably nailed our head-to-heads against the side in the top 3 or 4 this year, which we didn't last year.
Griff, what would it mean to get that sort of home draw?
I think it's massive for us in terms of getting another night like tonight at the Liberty, and a big hand to the crowd. I spoke in the week about the difference they can make. 11,000 on a wet Friday night is an awesome achievement. Considerably our best against Glasgow, and hopefully we can just build on that the next home game, hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, because it does add to the spirit and momentum of the group. Having said that, I'll go back to what I said in the week, that we are comfortable in our own skin, and in terms of what we spoke about in the week with outsiders, and we'll take whatever situation that's dealt with us, and we'd happily go away and challenge any opposition on their patch in the semi-final anyway.
You must have been chuffed with the tries.
Yeah, because there was a period there where territorially we were putting ourselves under pressure, but when we started to build some good phase play, we moved them around, and then we did create some numbers, and we had the skill sets in phase play to expose that. Obviously, you get a point of difference with Josh as well. Gets in those situations, and we're working well off each other. And likewise, obviously, there's a set piece, pre-planned move there, and I think you saw the unity and the joy of the team when that comes off. It almost brings some of your training work to fruition. But the game is far more than that. To be fair, it's not won in those moments, because there's so many little details that go into the whole 85, 90 minutes.
Rees Webb, Griff, that's his 17th try for club and country this season. I mean, that's an astonishing achievement for a scrum half, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like having an arch goal scorer in your side. It's a good go-to in a tight game like these. It's again a huge point of difference that someone can poach and sniff that out. Yes, we created it with the 4-man option, but obviously he's finished it with a plum, and he's been doing that all year.
Griff, Jeff Hassler, the hamstring.
Yeah, he's getting assessed now for the severity of it, and that. It's obviously hugely frustrating, because physically he'd ticked all the boxes over the last couple of weeks around the knee, and we were 100% confident with the numbers we were getting back. But then you can't account for something muscular there. It did obviously hit us a little bit, because he was going to be a big option in terms of what we wanted to do in terms of his role tonight. But having said that, much like a couple of other little areas, and Biggs went off, we had to adapt. We had to adapt as well accordingly, and I think, knowing the flow of the game, I was pleased the way Dan Evans adjusted to the wing position. Sam Davis came on, and structurally, I thought it just kept us in a good position.
How did you feel your half-backs went?
It wasn't as a team really, even though there was a lot of bright moments. It wasn't the most fluid of games per se, even though we had, as I said, some moments where you think we're going again and we can actually build. But they were good within what we had in terms of ball in hand. There was times where they set up some speed in what we did. There was other times they just put people in position. I liked Biggs, even though he had a little bit of a fuzzy head, he's setting up for a drop goal routine on the edge of half time. You know, stuff like that as well. When with 8 points up, we just took the sting out of them a little bit for a couple of minutes. You know, and they're at the hub of that.
Griff, how long have you been practicing that move 4-man line out? First time we've seen it, I think, that one.
Yeah, only this week really. You know, we look at the way opposition defend, and I think it's an amalgamation, to be fair, of something Chris has looked at and how they defend the 4-man, and it's also almost a different area to attack than the first 4-man we went in the game. We went off the top and tried to into the middle of the field, so you set sides up differently, and most sides will have those in your armoury. And the challenge for us, and we've shown some couple of good first phase options for a fair while now, but obviously the Blues game we've gone over on first phase. We've done it tonight. We've got to look at every set piece as a chance to score, and I think that's the mindset of the side, not just to power our way over. We're looking to create our way over.
You're beaten in 6 now, Griff. I mean, are you peaking at the right time of the season?
We're just training with purpose. I think obviously you go into the back end of the season, with something to play for, and the international boys have come back with a real spring in their step, knowing that we've got that purpose. Building on that, the unbeaten run started, remember, in the Munster game where the other non-international boys really stepped up, because that game, after the back of the Leinster draw, which I was disappointed with, was a huge game for us, Munster home. But everything sort of merged together fairly well, and I'm not saying like in the week we're perfect. There's lots of little intricacies which didn't perhaps work for us tonight, but I think we're going for something.
I knew up against the weather conditions tonight, they were difficult. The line is what cooking line out to what you said about fluency, you couldn't get in the game either side really.
Yeah, there's a lot of side entry penalties from the ruck area, and they're valid, to be fair to George, but that stopped us getting to our flow around some of our patterns. And then as I said, we kicked to pressure around some of the conditions, but to be fair, Glasgow nullified that with the magician on the wing at times. So we had to probably have to be a bit smart in what we spoke about half time, where and how we could control the speed of ball.